Hello everyone, and welcome to Sherry's second book chat. These are my co-hosts, Amidala Cup and Ziggy. Look, he loves you. So, today I am going to be talking about In the Hand of the Goddess. I'll zoom in on it later like I did with the last one. But basically, I spent most of yesterday reading this book. I did a few other things, like I got this book from the library and I went bike riding with my sister, but mostly I read this book. And on this book's cover, actually, unlike the other book's cover, I can actually believe that she is a boy. And it's also just a lot cooler looking. She has even better covers now, as one of my friends noted, but this one's not so bad. And the actual paperback that I posted a picture of on my blog is a different cover where she does indeed still look like a girl. No one with those hips looks like a boy. So, in this book, I got all that I desired. I was interested in seeing the relationships develop, and they did. But I'm going to make two videos. One's going to be with spoilers, and one's going to be without spoilers. This one's going to be without spoilers. This is just my general opinions on the book, and unless you have a problem with just knowing what happens in the book, like a summary, as if you would read the back of the book, then it shouldn't be a problem. So the reason for the two different videos is that I want to have one where the friends I have who've read this book already can watch it and say, oh, that's what she thought of that specific part, and that's what she thought of that specific part. And I also want one for the friends who haven't, where I can just say, read this book, it's good. So, for this general one, this is about a girl disguising herself as a boy so she can become a knight. Basically what the first one's about, only continued. So, I feel like the style of this book is a lot like another author that I like, Mercedes Lackey, who wrote the Heralds of Valdemar series, because it's very character-oriented. It has fighting and battles, probably slightly more even than Valdemar, although Valdemar has its battles and its fighting. But the focus of the story is always the characters in both Mercedes Lackey's books and, it seems, so far in Tamora Pierce's book. For these books, obviously the focus is on Alana and her struggles. And the writing is also very episodic, so you could read a lot of these bits as short stories that just line up a little bit. And Valdemar is also a lot like that. So, if you don't like one incident that happens, if you think, which is the case sometimes for me, if you think, oh, well, that wasn't that interesting, I didn't really care about that, then they go into an entirely different adventure, and sometimes it's a little bit disorienting, but it's a relatively familiar style of writing. So, I like that, and I like this book. Obviously I wouldn't have read it all day yesterday, but part of that was also the fact that I listened to the audiobook like 10 times because I had nothing else to listen to, and that's always a bad thing because I have trouble getting to sleep, so I listen to things to help me fall asleep, and I only had one audiobook with me, and I didn't have a working laptop, so it was really the only thing I could listen to. And some people say, well, just stop listening to it. But no, I continued to listen to it. So I just wanted to know what happened next. I'd heard it so many times, but I didn't know what happened next. I couldn't get it from the library. And amazingly, the library here had all three of the ones I hadn't read, but not the first one. It was very good. So I did a great job getting the first one, because I wouldn't have been able to get it here. And I would have been able to get it where my dad lived, but I would not have been able to get it here. So, great job for me on getting the first one first, and the other three just fell into my lap. That's always good when that happens. And I feel like this was the first book in a long time that I've read that I really wanted to read, possibly, like I said, because I listened to the audiobook so many times, but it was good. It was a good adventure, you know, no deep, profound, overly profound thoughts, but a good adventure. Another thing, actually, now that I think of that, that reminded me of the Mercedes Lackey books, is Mercedes Lackey has an entire pantheon of gods. There's actually only 3 gods in this book. There's a god of death, there's a goddess, and there's some dude named Mithros, and I haven't quite figured out that trinity yet. But in Mercedes Lackey, there's tons of gods, but in both authors' stories, the gods are very important in the characters' lives, and they directly intervene often, as we see in the hand of the goddess, and she's got her hands on her. So that's another similarity. So if you ever read anything by Mercedes Lackey, or if you've only read Tamora Pierce and you've never read anything by Mercedes Lackey, either way, just switch them. They're good, similar authors. And it was really good because I really like Mercedes Lackey's Heralds of Valdemar series, but she won't write anymore. She's not writing anymore. So well, eventually, hopefully, she will one day write more, but we just don't know. She says that she will, but she hasn't yet. So, reading these was nice, or reading these 2. I still have 2 more to go. And you have 2 more videos of this, maybe. Maybe. Or maybe I'll be too busy, and I'll have to write, or just not do anything at all. We'll see. So, that was what I liked in general about this book. And in the next video, if you've happened to read this book, and you're like, what did Sherry think about this? What did she think about the ending? What did she think about this character? Then that's in the other video. This one's just if you haven't read it, and you don't want me to tell you what it's about, but it's very similar to Mercedes Lackey. And it's good. And you should read it, and you should just read in general. And that's my message of the day. Goodbye.
Alright, here's the cover in the hand of the goddess. You see the hands, you see the cat, and look at her face. You can believe that she's a boy, and especially looking what she's wearing. That is a very good disguise. Because, you know, if you look lumpy, then people can't tell. She's supposed to have some sort of corset to bind her breasts as well. This is the goddess's eyes. And her hands. Actually, you know, the title's not quite right. It says in the hand of the goddess, but clearly it's in the hands. Hands, plural, for the goddess. But that's probably the best cover in this series. And that is all.